Hey, Keefe, you ready for a Patriots playoff push?
I didn't think that I was, but here we are.
How about this?
The AFC's down, Jones.
AFC
AFC's
is down.
It's vulnerable. Would you say the AFC's vulnerable?
AFC is vulnerable.
Like a wounded animal?
Yeah.
Not to give you that image this early in the day, but yeah, like a wounded animal.
Yeah.
I got like sideswiped by a car.
Yeah,
not full on
bleeding
hit.
out.
Not full on hit.
No. Not dead on arrival.
Limping
but like
around.
Bleeding out, limping around.
Possum guts hanging out, but still going.
We all know where it's headed.
Yeah.
But
It's not
there yet.
No.
Well, shout out to the Parlay Princess. She was on the Patriots playoff math yesterday.
Yes,
correct?
she was.
Playoffs?
Yeah, she was, Jim Mora. She was all over it. She was saying, like, what about the playoffs? And you're like, they're 3-7. They're 3-7.
So
however,
here's the thing. I don't think any of us, and we're not as bold as the Parlay Princess when it comes to the bets.
no.
But I don't think any of us are wagering. Let me know if I'm wrong about that, Keith. Wagering on the Patriots making the playoffs.
No, I still have them under 4.5, Jones.
But you do look at it.
Yeah.
And
No,
you
it's
go-
not as laughable as it was 2 weeks ago.
It's the Denver Broncos at 5-5 with a rookie quarterback and a very, very, very untalented offense.
Do you
Yes,
not believe yet?
I don't believe.
They're 5-5, Jones. He almost outdueled Patrick Mahomes.
No, they almost won the game.
Bo Nix put his team in a spot to be a 35-yard field goal from a very reliable Will Lutz away from handing the Kansas City Chiefs their first loss.
In the thin air.
In the thin air.
Yeah.
And it got blocked.
It did.
Wasn't meant to be. Some say it was rigged. Some say it was scripted. Some say the Kansas City Chiefs get all the breaks. So Bo Nix put him in a spot to win.
I just fact-checked myself. That wasn't in the thin air.
That was Kansas City.
I was trying to make it sound better. It wasn't
Bo
in the
Nix
thin air.
almost went into that house of horrors that is Arrowhead Stadium.
That's the
and pulled out a win.
That's
That's
thank you. So it's Denver at 5-5. The Colts and Bengals are at 4-6. Cincinnati probably feels like the scariest team there.
Yeah, Indianapolis is a fraud team, and you face them.
Correct.
They suck.
You get Indy head-to-head. Good point. And so then you have the Dolphins, Jets, Patriots all on a tier at 3 wins. And we've gone over the Patriots' schedule at various points.
Yeah.
But
real quick.
It ain't daunting.
No, it really isn't. I mean, it is 2 with Buffalo. But how funny is, did you ever imagine the week 1 win over Cincinnati could potentially be a tiebreaker? Like, who would have ever thought?
Wow.
In all the different scenarios.
You already notched your win head-to-head against the Bengals.
You have a head-to-head Bengals win.
You got the Colts coming up. You got Miami again.
Yeah, you could split with Miami.
Yep.
And you can't sweep that series, but you could split with Miami.
You already split with the Jets.
You already split with the Jets, who, I mean, I know they have the same record. I think they are arrow pointing down. Not to give away Tier Tuesday coming up, but I would say of all the bad teams, some are arrow pointing up, some are arrow pointing down. Patriots look a lot better than the New York Jets. I know they had that random win over the Texans, but they still seem like an absolute disaster of a team. But yeah, I think that's the thing is you look at the teams that are ahead of the Patriots. You even look at the team like the Denver Broncos, who are currently a playoff team. And with 7 games to go, like how confident are even Denver fans that they're going to hold on to that spot? I can't imagine very.
Oh, I would say not. And so your next 2 opponents are the teams that played on Monday Night Football last night, the Dolphins and the Rams. The Dolphins won.
Yeah, that was not a great aesthetically pleasing game.
Do either of those teams look like a team the
No.
Patriots can't compete against?
Definitely not.
So I'm not saying they're going to win both those games, but those are not like laughable games that they could be in and possibly steal. And then it's the Colts after that. So I see Dubs 985 in the Twitch chat, twitch.tv/Boston WEEI. They go from talking about the number 1 overall pick to talking about the playoffs.
Your head's going to spin. We are the SpongeBob meme.
Look, we want to cover all bases here, Keith. We want to cover everything.
Yeah.
Right down the middle on Jones and Keefe is
All
what
right.
we are.
Let's play that game right from the Twitch. More likely, number 1 pick, playoffs.
Number 1 pick.
Yeah,
I mean, number 1 pick is more likely.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but we're just laying out the scenarios
but
right now.
they're 1 game out of the number 1 pick. They're 2 games out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, no, right. That
Like,
so
I mean,
this is,
it's not crazy to talk about the playoffs. It's more likely they're going to have the number 1 pick.
No.
It's more likely they're going to win 4 or 5 games. It's minus money on the over, but the win total's still 4.5. So, like, what's more likely? Duh. But they're only 2 games out of a playoff spot. That's math.
No, this is also exactly what the NFL wants. This is exactly what Roger Goodell. This is exactly what all of the owners want. They love parity. They don't love the Patriots or the Chiefs just beating everybody every single week. Like, I think they'll talk that up and they'll hype that up, but they love the idea of teams being in it all year round, right? And like your team sucked last year. Guess what? You can be a playoff team the next year. or even as the season is going on. 3-7 is a horrible record, and you should not be talking about playoffs. But they added that playoff team 3 years ago, whenever it was. They added another wild card team, and there's always a bad team that wins a bad division every year. So it's not like 11 wins makes the playoffs every year. Like, you can grind your way in with 9 wins.
Here's the fact. There's a fact.
Give me a fact.
A crappy team like Denver, Miami, Cincinnati, the Jets, Patriots, Brown, like a team like that is going to make the playoffs because there's an extra playoff spot.
Is that the fact of the day?
Yes, it might be.
All right.
I'll save it for a Jones Key on Friday.
I like it.
So, look, the Bengals are the most talented team out of all those teams. The Patriots won head-to-head. The Patriots won that game head-to-head. So, a crappy team like that is going to make the postseason. That's just a fact. That's the math. And so why can't the Patriots be that crappy team?
It is kind of similar to the Red Sox in a way when we were looking at it and be like, you don't need to win 90 games. Like, you can win like 86, 87 games, find your way into the playoffs, and then now the difference here is I don't think you can get in and then go on like this magical run. Like,
who cares?
Exactly. Who cares is right. Like, just find your way into the playoffs. And similar to the Red Sox, we're like, hey, can you at least be playing meaningful games in September?
Right.
Can the Patriots play meaningful games in December? Or are we going to be sitting here Thanksgiving being like, they're eliminated? They're already mathematically eliminated.
Okay, right. So can they make it past their bye week and be playing important games against Arizona and Buffalo? Yeah, that feels in play with the games on the schedule right now. The Rams suck. They lost last night. I thought they were turning it around. Apparently not. And they got to come here on a short week. West to east on a short week. On the road.
So would you say
that's a good spot to catch the Rams is all I would say. It's not predicting a win, but that's a good spot to get them.
Not to pour gallons and gallons of water on this small spark that is.
Don't you dare.
Hope.
Don't gallons and gallons, Keefe.
I'm going to ask you this. Can they afford to have one more loss? Is that what it is? Do you have to go 6-1 the rest of the way?
No. You think they need 10 wins?
No, they have 3 right now. So 6-1
would be.
I'm
so mad at math. Jesus Christ.
You're saying they need to go 17-0?
What are you saying, Keith?
I'm saying,
why do I think they have 4 wins?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, I know the game felt good against Chicago, but they still only got 1 for that.
We do know you had them at 10-1 already.
That's a good point.
You did.
I think that's where
Jones loved them after.
So they need to get to 9 wins. They probably need to get to 9
wins. So
9-8
gets in this year. I think
so. They can screw around with one more loss.
All right. Still, that's the problem. So I love this conversation, and they are closer than I thought.
But hang on, but the Bengals are in the same boat. The Bengals can lose 2 games the rest of the year.
I think the Bengals probably, yeah.
Okay, and they're in a way tougher division. What's their schedule look like?
I'll tell you exactly what it looks like.
Great.
Chargers, Steelers, Cowboys.
Hang on, Chargers, Steelers. Both could easily be losses.
Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland.
Win.
Denver,
Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
they have a harder schedule than Pats.
But could they lose 2 games? Ooh, but then you know what? Pats have the
head-to-head.
They have the head-to-head.
Thank you.
Although, are they going to split with Buffalo? I feel like the only way they split with Buffalo, the Patriots, is if.
Let me tell you, beyond the text. I'm sorry to interrupt. Beyond the text,
no, please.
Chastising me for my bad math. Most of the texts are saying 8 and 9 is going to get you in. So
you think 8 and 9?
I mean, the text line does 379.
You guys think 8 and 9 gets you in?
Here you go. 8 and 9 gets you in the AFC this year. It gets you the 7 seed if you're 8 and 9 this year. He said, how many Giants or Seahawks teams are 7 and 9 going to the playoffs? Blah blah blah. So
let me just say this real quick. Last year, is a different year, Keefe. I understand. Last year, 10 wins were needed to make the AFC playoffs. 9 were needed to make the NFC playoffs.
Okay.
So I don't know if we've seen.
Look, to be safe, if you go 6-1, you're a playoff team.
Yeah.
So if you lose a second game, you're putting yourself in jeopardy.
Even the year before, it was 9 for both conferences. So since they've expanded the field, 9. I don't think we've seen an 8 and 9 team get in the playoffs yet.
It really highlights not going for 2 against Tennessee.
Dude, you beat Tennessee.
You said this yesterday. It really highlights the folly in not going for 2. Because if you go for 2 and you get it, you're on a 3-game win streak and you have more margin for error.
Or starting Drake May week 1. But we don't need to go over that.
That too.
We don't need to go over that all again. No, but in all seriousness, if they just play it the way that they've played it with the personnel that they've had, and you split the 2 overtime games, like you lost both overtime games. And if this thing comes down to a game or 2 games, like you're going to look back at those. So, like, as much credit as they get for beating a bad Bears team, beating a banged-up bad Jets team, man, it was right there.
It's
the Titans
so true.
And the Seahawks.
Not starting Drake May could wind up costing you a playoff spot, depending on how the team finishes. Yep. Not going for 2 against Tennessee could wind up costing you a playoff spot. screwing up, Jacoby Brissett taking a sack against Seattle, which I guess ties back into Drake Maye, could cost you a playoff spot. Now, look, you can do that with every single team just about in the NFL and play that game. But these are the decisions they made, and they're coming back to bite them if the arrow is indeed pointing up down the stretch.
Texter says, I love you guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
But what are we talking about? This Pats team sucks. Bright future with Maye, but they suck. So, fair. All of that is fair.
Yeah, but a sucky team's making the playoffs.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's where I go with
Yeah.
it. They expanded the playoff field, so almost half the league makes the playoffs. Do you think there are 14 Super Bowl contenders?
No.
Hell no. When we do tiers every week, how many are on the top? Even the top 2 tiers don't have 14 teams in them. So there are playoff teams that are like middle or lower. So, yeah, nobody's arguing that the Patriots are going to go on a run, but could they play meaningful games down the stretch, and could they weasel their way into the last spot? I think it's worth talking about. I'm not betting on it.
No.
But I think it's there only because they've gone on they've won 2 out of 3. Let's not throw them on parade. But everybody around them, to me, is sort of what speaks to it. The AFC is worse this year than we ever could have imagined. People thought that Miami was going to be good, but they haven't been. People thought, me included, New York was going to be good. They're not. Cincinnati has not been good. The freaking Cleveland Browns, they've been bad. There's so many bad teams.
I think I had Cleveland in the playoffs.
I had the Jets in the Super Bowl. So,
okay, that's worse.
It's worse.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the Jaguars, Raiders, Titans, it was supposed to be those 3 awful teams and the Patriots. You thought was going to be sort of that bottom group and everybody else competing for it. The reality is, it is pretty much there's a ton of half the conference has 4 or fewer wins.
Look, phone line's open, 617-779-7937. Is this a stupid discussion? The Patriots could be a playoff team.
Or is it the best discussion you've ever heard?
Are you happy to be talking about the Patriots as not just a bottom tier, worst of the worst, which they may be at least emerging out of that group, whether they're a playoff team or not? Are you happy to be talking about the Patriots emerging out of the worst of the worst? Or do you still want them to tank and go to the bottom of the league? There's a lot to discuss at 617-779-7937. You can text the show at 37937. A lot of ways you can interact on Twitter and Instagram at Jones and Keefe. You can watch along and chat twitch.tv/Boston WEEI. Lively chat going on there as always. And on YouTube, just subscribe to WEEI. You can watch there. We'll get to a lot on the show. Bill Belichick, lengthy, I think, discussion about Drake Maye yesterday.
Yeah, who could have
on the
saw
Pat
that
McAfee
coming?
show. No, very complimentary. He is. Drake Maye also appeared on WEEI Afternoons, discussed his leadership role on the New England Patriots. We'll get to the Red Sox. They're in on Juan Soto, Keefe.
Interest kings are back,
it's
baby.
Not just John Heyman reporting it.
No, that's true.
So we'll get to that as well on a Tier Tuesday, which we'll do at 11:20.
Yeah.
A Tommy Tuesday, which we'll do at high noon.
Ooh.
We got Kiefer Madness at 12:45.
Loaded show. You know what's funny?
Everybody's favorite. D'Angelo's getting dropped off.
Somebody said right there, I think they're on it. This is a good listener to the show. Yeah. I see where the positivity is coming from. It's a D'Angelo's Tuesday.
Wow. Can we track that, actually? Let's track that.
Are we more positive on Tuesday? I would venture yes.
Do we come in on Monday's a miserable day anyway. It's the first day of the work week.
Oh, I hate Mondays. And Garfield.
I'm still nursing my hangover from 2 days before.
I'm hammered.
I just Mondays are terrible. And so, okay, yeah. Are we positive because...
Smells like steak and cheese.
Is it out there?
No,
is it already here? Is it already here already?
But they're probably making it.
Okay, good.
I can smell it all the way.
Are we more positive on D'Angelo's Tuesday?
Yes.
We probably are.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be?
I don't know. We're going to get fed. We're going to eat like kings later.
It's true. So that's later on in the program. All that comes your way with your phone calls. Why is the AFC down? If we had to kind of handicap it, why is the AFC so bad this year?
Good question. I think part of it is the quarterbacks, meaning Tua got hurt, so that kind of knocked Miami out of it. Aaron Rodgers has not bounced back from the injury. That knocks New York out of it. And Deshaun Watson was the worst quarterback in the league. That knocked Cleveland out of it. Because those are 3 kind of contending teams. Like Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore are probably as advertised. Mm-hmm. So it's still that top trio of teams that look like real Super Bowl contenders. And then the Texans, even though they lead the division, they've taken a little step backwards. So I think if you add up all those things, that to me is why the AFC looks the way it does.
Yeah, and if
I also thought the Bengals were.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think it's almost purely about the Bengals. If the Bengals were what we expected, I think
if they were another 7-3, you'd be like, all right.
We look at the AFC and go, okay, that's pretty much what we handicap. Like the number 7 spot is up for grabs ish, but it'd pretty much be what we handicap. I think it's almost purely about the Bengals
Cincinnati.
underachieving. The Tua injury is a fair one, too.
But those other ones, I really think, like, didn't going into the year, we thought the AFC East was going to be like a murderer's row.
Yeah.
And no, it's just the Bills. It's just the Bills.
Yeah.
The other two teams played themselves out of it.
Also, after like week one, I started sounding the alarm about.
Well, you
whether or
didn't
not,
like the Jets as much as I did, but we both thought the Dolphins were going to be better.
and
I was
I'm
really
sorry,
high on the Jets.
It might have been week two. I'm sorry. I take
Yeah,
it back because Tua got hurt week two, and you're like, all of a sudden the division
Like,
looks
oh,
like
that's
it's in play, which is wrong. I mean, the Bills are running away with it. But those other two teams you knew pretty early, the Jets and the Dolphins, weren't going to be what you thought. So, yeah, I mean, Rodgers puking on himself, the Jets being a mess, Tua getting hurt, the Bengals not wanting to pay anybody there probably has them halfway checked out, knowing Zach Taylor's going to get fired. That's why the AFC is down a little bit. But the top of it is still as good as ever. Pittsburgh's in there, which is weird.
Pittsburgh's a surprise, but the other three.
But
and then,
KC, Buffalo, Baltimore, even Houston having lost two in a row. And it's really only one bad loss. You lose to Detroit. I don't like how they lost, but you lose to Detroit. You can wrap your head around that.
And the Chargers are kind of quiet.
Chargers
they got to win
and
record,
Herbert,
though. Yeah.
like that's a team that's going to be a playoff team. Most of the AFC is kind of how you expected. The bottom, though, is just so bad.
No, but
and
what's
you
crazy,
detailed all the bad quarterback
they
play.
stink. And because, it's such a huge difference because you had like 4 or 5 teams you thought fighting for that next spot. And if one of them emerged and was also 7-3, you'd be like, oh, yeah, AFC's good, couple teams. But all of them kind of had something go wrong. And that's why it'll be curious to see how many wins it takes to get that final playoff spot.
Do you think, and I kind of push back on this normally because we just lived at the top of the NFL for 2 decades, and we're like, oh, God, the NFL sucks. It's the Patriots and nobody else. The NFL stinks. It's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I largely push back on that, but I do think this year the NFL kind of stinks.
I agree.
There's so many 2 and 3 win teams. I don't know that I've ever seen that before 10 weeks into the year.
Yeah, there's so many.
Where I think you have 10 2 and 3 win teams. Is that right?
Yeah.
So the NFL, at least maybe the NFL isn't down, but the bottom of the league is as bad as it's been.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's been some just horrible games this year. And I know the Patriots have played a bunch of those. But even how many?
It's 11 2 or 3 win teams.
But how many times have we come in on Monday and been like, yeah, those 4 o'clock games sucked? Like, so you watch the Patriots lose or, win, and then you sit down and watch the 4 o'clock game, whether I think, the Cowboys being on TV all the time and being horrible, that kind of plays a factor in it. But yeah, there are so many bad teams. Teams have fired coaches already. Teams have fired coordinators. Oh, by the way, Shane Waldron out 9 games. See you later. You're done.
Do we get the answer? He made it further or the same amount as Luke gets?
I think they both coached 9 games.
Nice.
9 games. You hire an offensive coordinator. So Alex Van Pelt's like, doing pretty well. Doing pretty great over here.
Moving up the offensive coordinator power rankings.
How bad is that?
Offensive coordinator tiers?
Maybe
next
could.
week.
Yeah,
maybe,
we could.
Maybe next week.
There's a few interims. We got to figure that out. But yeah, there's been the league has been pretty rough this year.
It has been.
Like so many times, there's just like a trash game, maybe even on prime. Like last night's game was not a great game to watch.
Awful.
And you're like, man, I mean, the joke's on me. I'm watching all these games. But I would say more often than not, it's kind of a bad product. Yet because we're betting on it, we're playing fantasy on it, or we're just rooting for your teams. Like we're addicted to it. But overall, it's not been great.
So the NFL's down. The AFC's down.
Yep.
Can the Patriots worm into the playoff picture? Have they already wormed into it? They're only 2 games out. 617-779-7937. You can discuss there. I think something we can all agree on, these next 3 games can decide a lot. They're all winnable. Doesn't mean the Patriots are going to win them all. But the Rams, Dolphins, you watched them both last night. Neither team is a cut above the Patriots, I don't think. And then the Colts, who might be starting Anthony Richardson or a Flacco who's breaking down. I like Joe Flacco, but it's not working right now in Indy. Those are your next 3 games. You take advantage of those, you will be firmly in the playoff mix.